It happens literally in a flash. 1 second you're standing on solid ground, and the next, the floor just falls right out from under you. You realize you've been lied to, scammed, or betrayed by someone you implicitly trusted. In that single, shocking moment, your reality completely shatters. Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm going to be your guide as we navigate this incredibly difficult terrain of betrayal. But more importantly, we're going to focus on how you can reclaim your power. We are going to break down the exact psychological steps you need to truly heal.
You know, when your world shatters like that, the very first thought usually isn't anger. It's actually a sickening, overwhelming wave of shame. It's that toxic little voice in your head asking, how could I have been so stupid? If you're feeling anything like that right now, or maybe you know someone who is, I want to assure you right out of the gate, you are in a safe space here. Betrayal is a deeply universal experience that almost all of us will face at some point. So we really need to talk about it, and we have to do it with zero judgment.
Section 1. The Shock of Betrayal. Understanding the Threat. To actually start healing, we've got to understand what we're really up against. At its core, a scam is just a deceptive scheme meant to cheat you out of your assets. That could be your hard-earned money, physical property, or even, actually, most importantly, your deep emotional trust. A scam is essentially a betrayal wearing the mask of a fantastic opportunity. And man, they come in so many varied forms today. You've got love scams, where someone spends literally months building a fake relationship online just to eventually ask for cash. There are investment scams promising these crazy, unrealistic returns. We've got phishing scams trying to trick you out of your passwords. And finally, impersonation scams, where they actually pretend to be the government or your bank to spark immediate panic. The tactics constantly evolve, but the core is always exactly the same. They exploit your trust, your hope, or your fear to get what they want.
Section 2. The Neuroscience of Shame.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this next part is absolutely crucial. We are shifting our focus from the raw emotional pain to the objective, scientific reality of what is physically happening inside your brain right now. That deep feeling of stupidity you're experiencing, it is a neurological event. Your amygdala, which is your brain's alarm system, is in absolute overdrive. It is flooding your body with cortisol, the stress hormone, basically screaming at you that you are the problem. It's kind of funny, right? If a friend got scammed, you'd immediately brew them some tea and tell them it's not their fault. But when it happens to us, our brain decides we are public enemy number one. The scientific antidote to this panic isn't to just tough it out. The real fix is activating your brain's caregiving system, a calming response that reminds you, hey, you are human and you are not to blame. You literally have to respond to yourself just like you would to a dear friend. Which brings us to a massive concept, self-compassion. According to research by Dr. Kristen Neff, this isn't just nice-sounding advice. It's an actual, proven neurological intervention. When you show yourself self-compassion, you are literally calming that screaming amygdala by firing up the brain's caregiving system. So when that inner voice says, I'm so stupid, you need to recognize that being kind to yourself isn't some fluffy, feel-good thing. It is an evidence-based, biological necessity to stop the panic in your head.
Section 3. Rewrite the story. Externalizing the event.
Once that immediate brain panic is calmed down, we move to the next vital phase. Right now, it probably feels like this betrayal is permanently glued to your identity, like you are the fool who got scammed. We have to completely separate those two things. To show you how incredibly common this dynamic is, let's look at a classic pop culture example, the "Who Shot JR" effect from the TV show Dallas. JR was the ultimate master of betrayal, charming, family, and totally ruthless. But the real shock for the audience wasn't just the crime itself. It was the terrifying realization that someone you trust, work with, or even love could be capable of such massive deception. It taps into this timeless, universal fear that the people closest to us can hurt us the most. That gut punch feeling of, how could they do this, is exactly what you have right now. It just proves that this kind of pain is completely universal. Deception happens to everyone.
So how do we turn this into a practical strategy for healing? Well, we call it the journalist approach. You need to write down the story of what happened, but, and this is key, do it fact by fact, like a reporter. Number 1, this person said this. Number 2, I did this. Number 3, the result was this. Why does this matter so much? Because that act of objective storytelling physically detaches the emotional trauma from your core identity. You're taking the scam out of your heart and putting it on paper as a dry sequence of events.
And that leads us to what is arguably the single most powerful realization in this entire explainer. Ready? You are a person who experienced a betrayal. You are not the betrayal. I really want you to let that sink in for a second. Making that distinction is the very first step toward getting your story back. It's a profound psychological shift that pulls you out of deep shame and sets you straight on the path to real recovery.
Section 4. Reclaim your power. From passive to active.
All right, now we're ready to reclaim your power. We're shifting from being passive to being completely active. See, scammers thrive on making you feel powerless. They want you silent. The longer you sit in silence, the more power they hold over you. So, the best antidote to that powerlessness? Take small, concrete steps today to regain control. If you got scammed, report it to the authorities. In the US, that's the FTC. Or find your National Fraud Center. Call your bank immediately. And if you were betrayed by someone you know, block them. Go totally no contact. Take back control of your emotional space. Even if you can't get your money back, taking these actions means you are no longer a passive victim. You are an active agent. Every single step is a bold declaration saying, you do not control me anymore.
Section 5. A special message for elders.
It is a really sad reality that our older generations are being targeted more and more by highly sophisticated scams. And usually there's zero mental health support offered to help process the betrayal afterward. So if this is you, or maybe you're watching this with a parent or grandparent, this space is especially for you. You grew up in a totally different time, a time of handshakes and deep trust, where you were actively taught to be polite and take folks at their word. Scammers today are weaponizing that exact decency. But please hear me on this. Do not let this isolated experience make you cynical. Don't let it shut you off from the rest of the world. Your empathy, your wisdom, and your life experience, those aren't weaknesses. They are absolutely your most beautiful assets and strengths.
So the crucial point to remember is this. This was not a failure of your intelligence. It was a failure of a criminal's humanity. You literally have nothing to be ashamed of. Please, talk about it. Tell your family. Do not try to carry this burden all by yourself because you deserve support just as much as anybody else does. Ultimately, as we pull all this together, we find that true healing isn't about just forgetting the betrayal ever happened. True healing is integration. It's about learning to actually trust yourself again, even after your own judgment might have temporarily slipped. It's understanding that your empathy is a massive gift, but one that just needs to be protected with slightly wiser boundaries moving forward. The pain you're feeling is incredibly real, for sure, but it does not have to be permanent.
And we're going to close out this explainer with one final thought to hold on to. You are not your mistake. You are your recovery. This experience does not define you, but how you choose to respond to it absolutely does. You know the neuroscience now, you've got the tools for self-compassion, and you have the concrete steps to transition from a passive victim into